Where's my D20?
Gobbo!
Worth it.
Hello and welcome to Hobbs Horror Stories. I am Hob, your hobgoblin narrator, back this week to share another great horror story with you. This story is different from most because the horror in this is something that all of us playing tabletop games have dealt with, or at least had the thought cross our mind before. How does it feel when you have to say goodbye to a character? Today's story comes from r/D&D stories on Reddit and was written by Odd Reception 519. The title of today's story is Saying Goodbye to My First D&D Character. My group has been playing through Lost Mines of Phandelver, and then we moved on to Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We've been playing this campaign and same characters since August 2023. Congrats on the long-standing campaign, it's hard to do. My character was a lizard folk rogue named Crow. He's basically clinically insane, acts really selfishly, but also doesn't always make the smartest decisions. Early on in Mad Mage, the fighter of the group killed a woman named Sylvia, as she betrayed our group. Crow took her decapitated head and named it Stephanie, and claimed Stephanie is his bestie. We're currently on the third level of the Mad Mage, nowhere close to done, but I decided that Crow is going to betray the party. A drow princess has tasked us to kill some hags and goblins, which we did. She awarded us with titles after completing a trial and some gold. The group is still wary of the drows, but Crow isn't, so I decided that Crow will sell the group out next session, telling the drow princess that the party will betray her. But Crow will pledge his loyalty towards her, mostly for his own self-interest. I have two reasons for retiring Crow. Firstly, I find rogues so boring to play, but I don't want a multi-class as I feel it's not in his character to do so. Secondly, I feel like this is a natural end for him. At level 10 we plan to leave the Mad Mage and play through Vecna Eye of Ruin, and I don't see Crow fitting with that campaign. So I came up with a female half-elf bard, who I'm yet to name, to play after next session, which will be Crow's final session. The bard will be a College of Whispers bard, as I want her to still have an evil vibe, because I love evil characters, but less crazy and more serious. The only fear with this character is I'm male, and I don't know how the group would feel about me playing a female character. I allow it in games I DM as I don't see it as a problem, but I don't know how this group will take it.
Absolutely. My favorite character that I've ever played is a woman. It shouldn't matter what your character is or identifies as, or if it matches you, or even what they're interested in. You're telling a fictional story about a group of fictional characters, not an autobiography, so switch it up, make it interesting, have fun with it.
Opie, overall, if your group is full and you've been playing with them this long, they shouldn't have any issues with it. No sane person should have any issues with it. As long as you don't get like creepy and weird with you being a male playing a female, with like some other stories that we've read here, I think you'll be fine. Overall, I'm actually really sad to see Crow go, since I love role playing as him and playing him for over a year gives you a strong bond, but I feel like this is just the best possible way to handle his character. I'm really excited for next session since it's his finale, but I also feel like I'm gonna cry over it. So, talking about death with all forms of media. When losing a character in a video game, it's no big deal. You just load the last save and continue again. It sometimes hurts a little bit harder if you're playing on honor mode or hardcore, but again, it's just a video game. You start again and things are fine. However, D&D and tabletop roleplay games are different. You spend hours each week, every other week, or monthly not just playing the game, but becoming this character. The character in some ways adapts your character traits. And while you're at the table, you start adapting and changing to how they would normally do things. You become this whole new person. So when it comes time in the story where you need to let go of this character, a lot of people struggle to. I know I've gotten emotional at the table before, as my character or another player's character was on the verge of death. And we had the realization in that moment that there was nothing our characters could really do about it. Of course, though, this story is slightly different for OP. You're getting a moment in the story to give your character a different path, to make their journey with the party complete, and that's awesome. In the story, it wasn't like you didn't like your character and forced an impromptu change on your DM. No, you've been playing this character for a while and decided that it was time to move on to something new. So, I wish you luck with your character and hope that you have many more adventures. It's a lot better to do things this way than to have your character randomly lose their life to a monster encounter that holds no real depth over the story.
Okay, so I think OP has a good plan here. When it comes to the end of a character, there's really only two ways it can happen: sudden death in combat, or retirement via scripted death, or simply hanging up the sword. If you ever have the option to choose which path your character meets their end, take it. Work with the DM if you can, and make it memorable, unforgettable even. Make it loud and dramatic and shocking, or keep it quiet, tender, and personal. Make it as hard on your party as it is on you. Make them shout, make them cry, steal the spotlight, make that moment the highlight of the campaign. Make it something that motivates the rest of the party into their own death or retirement, but don't let it be forgotten. It's never easy, even if it's something that you want to do. You're saying goodbye to a character that's been a part of not just yours, but a whole group of people's lives. You're closing the book on something you've grown attached to, something you made and grew yourself. There may even be stories left unresolved, friends or family left behind, never to know your character's fate, names, places, things, all left forgotten. The character was a part of you, and now they've been taken away. It can be very emotional, and that can make it really hard to play out the scene. But remember this: if it makes someone cry, then you did it right, even if it was just yourself. If it makes someone swear to kill whoever or whatever did your character in, you did it right. If by a few hours, days, weeks, months, or even years you can look back and be proud of the scene that you played out, then you did it right, even if it didn't feel like it at the time. For DMs, if a player is having one of these scenes, don't make them roll for ability checks that don't matter. If someone's wanting to sneak away from the party so they don't have to say goodbye, don't make them roll for stealth or have the party roll for perception. Just play it out. If someone wants to climb something to die at its peak, let them. Don't make them roll athletics. If a person wants to carry their fallen companion across the sea to a life raft or something, don't make them roll an athletics check to swim. If a player wants to close and jam a door as their dying gasp of defiance to protect the rest of the party from whatever was in that room, don't make them roll strength or constitution checks. These scenes are for telling a story, not for skill checks. There's no big benefit that players gain from these actions, and even if there are edge cases, you can and should let them have their moment and then just balance the scales later. Dice, as fun as they may be, are very likely to ruin a scene. It doesn't matter how big your bonus is, there's always a chance to fail and end up killing the moment. The main thing I want you all to remember here is this: don't be afraid to lose your character, be afraid to make their loss forgettable.
So, for everyone today, I have a little bit of a extra story that we're gonna do, and it's about Gobbo and I's personal game. In the bi-weekly games that I run with our group of friends, we recently had a person's character retire. In fact, it was Gobbo's character, Nibbles.
So, Nibbles was a swashbuckler rogue and almost a sword bard Gerbine, which is a Humblewood original race based off of the Jerboa. Nibbles was a very chaotic little guy with a bright outfit topped with a feathered cap, way too much confidence, and a love for dramatic poses with his cape of billowing. Think Reepicheep from Narnia, but just as likely to rob you as help you out. I love playing him so much that Hob even got me a set of dice that look like cheese. And, in classic Gobbo Luck fashion, those dice would lead to Nibble's downfall. But that's the story that Hob's about to tell you.
The whole situation that led to the retirement of Nibbles was that they were going after a cult that was sacrificing Fae in the Feywilds. They realized that they weren't strong enough to defeat them after a major loss to them. They needed to go and gather some new allies, some more stronger magic items, and maybe some artifacts along the way. One of those magic items being the Eye of a Great Hag. In this case, the hag being Baba Yaga. Nibbles, in order to get this magical artifact, traded his eye for the Eye of the Hag, who she let him know that this would come at a cost, and he could use it until the terms of their deal had been met. The terms for Nibbles' side being that he wanted to defeat the leader of the cult, and at the time he never asked the witch what her terms were. They just agreed. He got the eye, and a hop, skip, and a jump later, the group gets to face the leader of the cult. The room was set up with runes that would randomly block different schools of magic during the fight. This would block it for one full round until the next 20 count as part of the lair action. When it was rolling randomly, at first it would block illusion and evocation, and then another round abjuration and enchantment. Nibbles during this fight was taken down, and then the runes rolled randomly again, this time blocking abjuration, which for those who don't know is healing magic. For the next 2 turns, Nibbles during this was facing death saving throws, which he failed both of. As he was failing these saving throws, he could see himself falling into this pit of darkness. The light above him as a party member stared down at him, trying to bring him back, but failing over and over again as their magic wouldn't work. As he was fading to where he could just barely see the light, he heard the voice of Baba Yaga, who reached out to him through the darkness, and told him that he hasn't met the terms of their deal yet. And she asked him if he wanted to fight once more. Nibbles agreed, and the rest of the party watched as a sickening aura of necrotic energy emanated from his body. As he slowly rose to his feet, going from a color of tan fur to pure white, he rose up as a reborn to finish this fight. The party beat the cult, and everyone was celebrating, everyone except for Nibbles, who was faced with the realization now that his form was temporary. Nibbles, not wanting to make anyone upset, continued with them as they then journeyed out of the Feywild, and he saw right where the border to leave was. And while everyone else was walking forward, he stayed back and slowly walked over when he was ready. Nibbles didn't have any moments of trying to cheat what fate had in store for him or run back into the Feywild. He wasn't trying to maneuver his way out of this. He knew what he had agreed to, and it was time to face the music. He simply walked right over the border and sat down on a little bench that was sitting there. As he did this, he felt as black ichor began to pour out of the witch's eye, swirling on a pool in the ground until it formed Baba Yaga herself. She explained that her terms of the deal was getting out of the Feywild. She couldn't leave on her own. She thanked him for holding up his end of the deal, and she let him know that what was done to him can't be undone. However, he doesn't have to say goodbye to everyone just yet. His form now cannot be healed. It cannot grow stronger, and he won't need to eat, sleep, or breathe ever again. But he will still be him. He'll still retain his mind, and for as long as he wants to be, he will be. Nibble, still not ready to say goodbye to the party just yet, went with them, for now. As his party saw him, he had black ichor stained down his face in the form of a tear, with a missing eye. They knew what had happened, and many of them tried to find ways out of all of this, but Nibbles told them not to worry about it. They returned to the kingdom and went to receive the reward that they were getting for defeating this cult. It was a small town that they could watch over, grow, and expand as they see fit. Nibbles decided at that moment that he was going to be the watcher and caretaker of this town. This way the party can still be adventurers. He just waits for them to return home.
To be honest, as much as I'm happy that Nibbles is still, well, sort of alive, in my mind, Nibbles died on that bench. In game, I felt that it would be better to have a party member running the town, so that way we could still have a say on what happens while the rest of the party is out adventuring. But I feel like Nibbles' story ended there, in the shade, having finally completed his hero's journey character arc. I don't think there was much that he could have done better playing that scene out. It's by far my crowning achievement as a role player, and man, it was hard to keep playing the scene out while fighting back tears. I didn't even expect half of the things to happen, and I was winging so much of it, but it was amazing.
With all of that in mind, character loss of any kind can be tragic. And maybe we'll do a video just focusing on death and the ways that a DM can make things interesting. A way that they could change things up. But for now, that's the end of this video. Thank you all for watching, and let's get to the outro. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you have any stories you would like to have read here on the channel, please share them to the email in the description below. Also, if you could please like, comment, and subscribe, it would help us greatly to slay the monster known as the algorithm. Also, if you're looking for more great horror stories like these, please click the link at the end of this video. Also, random side note, if you are interested in communicating and learning more about upcoming projects, join the Goblins and Gremlins community on Discord. Below is a link straight to the Goblin Grotto. Thank you from all of us here at Goblins and Gremlins.